An election call expected to come this weekend. Details tonight on the likely date for the vote. A Windsor mother wants funding to be improved for people with addictions, saying a proposed supervised consumption site won't help her son. We take a live look outside at a wonderful look at those trees that are standing, but a lot fallen down after the storms that have been rolling through Windsor and the county. We'll take a look at the damage. Colette Kennedy brings us the forecast tonight. I'm Chris Ensing. Thanks for joining us. Significant damage across Windsor-Essex. Those late afternoon storms leaving a mark across the county on Wednesday. Researchers, they're on the ground right now, actively investigating a possible tornado touchdown. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa shows us the scene.
Intense storms tore through the county. Sitting on this 4x4, one Cottam homeowner says he was thrown sideways. The trailer he had parked the vehicle in was blown over. He was able to get out without major injuries, but there was even more damage to deal with. Their camping trailer was completely flipped upside down. Herb garden and outdoor soap shop destroyed. All they can do now is wait for an insurance company to come assess the damage. Just down the road, another family is also trying to pick up the pieces. The roof of their home is almost completely torn off, the side fence taken out of the ground, and trees are down. The homeowner didn't want to chat on camera, but she says her son was around to witness what had happened. He's okay, he's not injured, but it does seem like damage is really centered to this home here. Taking a look around, none of the other homes seem to have been touched by the storm. The family was packing up their bags earlier today, and they're heading out until they can get someone to come here and really assess the damage.
Well, this is the only one I'm aware of with significant structural damage, as you can see. Our job here today is to issue orders to comply, and we issued an unsafe building. We want the occupants to be safe. We don't want them within the building. They're in the process of gathering a few personal items.
You've seen a lot of these happen throughout the summer months?
I've seen quite a few, but mostly this year we've been dealing with flooding concerns. This one is pretty significant.
And across Windsor-Essex, there was lots of damage as well. Amherstburg Mayor Aldo Di Carlo says many have been without internet and cell service. He's assuming some towers are down and is hoping by now everything will be back up and running. All of this comes just weeks after tornadoes touched down in Windsor and Leamington. After months of severe weather, people I spoke with say they hope this is the last of it for the rest of the summer. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Cottam.
We might hope it's over, but we're still in storm season here in southwestern Ontario. Let's take a look at what we've seen so far in the last while. Earlier this week, a weak tornado confirmed in London. July 24th, a pair of tornadoes closer to home, one in Leamington that destroyed some greenhouses, another in Windsor. There was some minor roof damage in South Walkerville. Earlier in July, there was a downburst in Lakeshore, some damage to a barn. A typical year sees 12 tornadoes on average in Ontario, but that could be changing, according to the Northern Tornadoes Project, who investigates these storms out of Western University.
Won't send a team out every time there's like a tree branch that's broken or anything like that, but if there's like substantial damage and there's multiple reports from the same area saying the same thing, then it might be worth our time to go there. That's exactly what happened with the Leamington and the Windsor event, where actually I ended up heading out. We weren't going to send a team initially, but with the amount of reports we were getting from the damage and all that stuff, it actually warranted a damage survey. And it's the same thing for yesterday in the Cottam area, where we just received a significant damage report. So it was worth our time to go there this morning.
Why is it so important to confirm that it is a tornado and to measure it out?
The project essentially, what we're trying to do is to catalog every tornado that happens in Canada. And with that data, we're able to, like I said, make new averages for the provinces, how many tornadoes we're seeing, catalog tornadoes that might have been missed. We're using like really awesome technology like drones, satellite and ground surveys. So we're able to actually catalog these tornadoes that might have been missed in the past. And it's important because it's a scientific mission, right? So we're trying to answer questions like, are tornadoes increasing in frequency because of climate change, or is it simply because there's more population and then we're just getting more reports, or is it because technology is increasing? So those are the questions that this project is trying to answer, essentially.
The mother of a Windsor man addicted to drugs does not want to see a supervised consumption site in the city. She says the money should go to treatment facilities instead. The proposed site is intended to prevent overdoses and provide information on treatment. CBC's Dale Molnar reports.
To be honest, I'm exhausted. I am constantly worrying about my son. I'm constantly worrying about his family, his daughter, the repercussions of his drug use.
Jody Nesbitt's 28-year-old son has been using a variety of drugs for 12 years. She says he will not benefit from 2 proposed supervised consumption sites.
I don't think that that's a solution. It's another spot for my son to go and meet more people that have the same issues that aren't helping one another. He needs the support group. He needs people that are in recovery, and that is where you get the treatment.
Nesbitt, who is part of a support group of parents, wants to see more funding for treatment centers where wait times can be months. The wait times at the Brentwood Recovery Home are now averaging 45 days for men and 75 days for women. The executive director says COVID protocols have made things worse. But she says there is a place for supervised consumption sites, and it's not a case of either or.
Their disease process is very individual, and so we need a suite of options, a menu of options that are solidly funded.
Proponents of the site say they are needed to help those who are using drugs in the streets and are more vulnerable to overdosing.
So a lot of substance users who may not have a place to use, who do want to be supervised when they're using, will likely want to utilize a service like that.
But Nesbitt says she will continue to fight for better treatment options.
He's not worried about his safety. He's not worried about what he's putting in his body. He's not worried about a clean needle. He's worried about where he's going to get his next fix.
City Council still has to vote on the 2 proposed locations, one here at Goyo and Wyandotte and another a few doors down at 628 Goyo Street. They also require federal and provincial approvals. The earliest they could be open is next year. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
High demand for COVID-19 tests in Windsor-Essex. Windsor Regional Hospital saying that testing hit volumes not seen since the end of the 3rd wave in April. Now this as cases continue to rise. 29 new cases today in Windsor-Essex. There are 165 active cases. Of those, about half are from variants of concern. Yesterday, that was about 30%. One person in hospital right now. There are 2 workplaces currently in outbreak. The University of Windsor will now require some students to be vaccinated. Its Department of Athletics and Recreational Services will require all Lancer varsity student athletes and student athletic therapists to be vaccinated. They must have had a Health Canada approved shot. First doses must be administered by August 31st, the second no later than October 1st. There are provisions for those with medical reasons or under grounds protected by the Human Rights Code. Unlike Ontario, British Columbia will now make vaccine mandatory for everyone working in long-term care and assisted living. Employees will need to be fully vaccinated by October 12th. The announcement comes as BC saw their highest COVID-19 daily case count in nearly 3 months. The last 5 weeks, they've seen a 1,000% increase in cases. And the rising case count has led to more calls on the province for a proof of vaccination certificate or vaccine passport. Some businesses are coming up with their own rules and are hoping for standardized guidelines. Lorena Redekop has more on the demands for a government plan.
So far, this French restaurant and bar in Parkdale is sticking to patio service, not open for indoor dining.
In absence of responsible guidelines, we don't think it's really fair for us to do that, both put our customers potentially at risk.
The owner of Chanticleer wants the government to do more.
They're effectively leaving us out to dry, where they're letting the businesses and individual citizens accept the vitriol that should be directed towards government. Sometimes government has to make hard decisions.
That vitriol followed their public stance on proof of vaccinations. Last month, the restaurant announced plans to require mandatory vaccinations for indoor diners. What followed was negative reviews and fake reservations.
So we have waiting lists.
This dance school also received a few negative reviews after saying it would require all students to have their shots.
If it's not me, who's going to make a difference? If it's not now, when? I would always love to say that it would be amazing if the government gave the small businesses clear instructions on how to navigate, because I didn't know. I was calling lawyers different lawyers that be like, hey, can you give me some free advice on how to navigate this?
We don't know.
One business group is calling on the province to come out with a plan to ensure businesses can stay open.
Small business owners have been absolutely hammered in this province, crushed in this city. And so we need to ensure that we do not go through that again. 3 has been unbearable, 4 would be catastrophic. We cannot be locked down again.
The province says any vaccine certificate should be the same across the country, and that now the current vaccine proof is available for companies that choose to require it.
I have on my phone my vaccine certificate. I have it in paper as well. And so I can produce that whenever needed.
Today, Mayor John Tory sent out a statement urging the province to work with the federal government on a proof of vaccination system here. He says he believes a provincial plan is the best way to prevent another lockdown. You may soon need proof of vaccination to attend major sporting events in the city. Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment says it's in talks with public health officials and expects to make an announcement next week. Lorenda Radicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
Don't want to fly to Toronto to get to Detroit? There's another option. McMahon Helicopter Service is giving people the chance to travel and see loved ones, all with a scenic view.
The passenger transportation from Windsor started in May. We started getting calls early in the year, January, February. A number of calls came in because people needed to find transportation from Windsor to Detroit. We're happy to have the work somewhere, and we're a flexible company. We have the ability to turn things on and off and shift gears, so to speak, when the demand is there. Until things dragged on for the better part of the year, that's when people really started contacting us and trying to figure out how they could travel and see their loved ones and make medical appointments and other things. It's been very, very positive. We get more feedback from this service than we get from any of our other customers for any of the other services that we provide. We're offering kind of a unique service because it is just such a short flight. It's a pretty quick and good experience if you just need to get across the border here from Windsor to Detroit. I think a lot of people that are uneasy flying in fixed wing aircraft find more enjoyment flying in the helicopter simply because it's a smoother takeoff and landing. It's a slower takeoff and landing, and you kind of can see what's going on versus getting into a small fixed wing airplane with small windows. It's also a very short flight too, so there's not a lot of time to get queasy, so to speak, if you get motion sickness. So a lot of people that in the past that don't fly well enjoy the helicopter rides.
There's a lot of questions around the incident at the Amherstburg Town Hall on Monday. Windsor police escorted 3 town hall personnel from the building. The town's mayor says he can only call it a human resources issue. Can't say more for legal reasons.
There is no criminal charges. No one was taken away in handcuffs. I've heard a number of rumors like that, and there are no members of council involved. I think that's probably about it. The key thing is people really need to appreciate that this is not a criminal matter.
DiCarlo has confirmed that town lawyer Susan Harauda is acting as CAO. He wouldn't answer questions about CAO John Michelli's job status. The mayor saying no one has been fired, but he wouldn't say if they're back to work today. It is almost certain Canadians will be heading to the polls for a pandemic federal election. Sources telling CBC News that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is set to go to Rideau Hall on Sunday to ask the Governor General to dissolve Parliament. Rafi Boudjikanan has the story.
Today's announcement.
Make this announcement today.
I'm really excited to announce that.
From cabinet ministers with last-minute news to share to the political opposition, everyone's been getting FaceTime, even if some say it's against their will.
Now is not the time for an election. Now is the time to make sure we're ready for the risks of a 4th wave. Health and the economic well-being of our country needs to be paramount.
The NDP going so far as releasing a platform for a campaign it doesn't want to happen.
And if Justin Trudeau was listening to people and their concerns and their worries, he would not be holding a selfish summer election.
Those warnings not just from Justin Trudeau's political opponents.
I just think there's a disconnect with where we're at in terms of our headspace right now. We're trying to focus on saving lives. I just think that the timing is not the best from my perspective as an intensive care physician.
There have been 5 provincial and territorial elections during the pandemic, though, and Canada's chief public health officer says voting can be done safely.
Whether it's the social distancing and mask wearing and all of those measures that everyone's pretty used to by now. But you do have to watch the local epidemiology and the local public health advice as well.
Evidently, that will be on Trudeau's mind as well. So far, polls have the Liberals ahead of everyone else. With case numbers rising across Canada, he'll be hoping that doesn't scuttle his chance at forming a majority when voters cast their ballots on September 20th. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now, again, the federal election hasn't been called yet, but as you've seen, the major parties have been on the campaign trail for weeks. Today, leader Jagmeet Singh unveiled the New Democratic Party's campaign platform, their so-called commitment to Canadians. As CBC's Ashley Burke reports, the NDP plans to build on the support it has gained during the pandemic.
That was great. Yeah, it was great. Thanks, everybody.
An election hasn't been called yet, but the NDP is already unveiling its plan and strategy.
Canadians are better off because we fought to make sure the wage subsidy was higher.
This election, Jagmeet Singh's betting on his record during the pandemic to try and go after Liberal seats and hold on to this one. The NDP's only riding in Atlantic Canada, the Liberals already eyeing it.
If Justin Trudeau was listening to people and their concerns and their worries, he would not be holding a selfish summer election.
Today, his party released its commitments if elected. The highlights: universal prescription drug coverage, dental care and mental health support, making it easier for first-time homebuyers, and paid sick leave for workers. If that all sounds familiar, it's because it is. Most of it the NDP campaigned on in 2019.
Sometimes you look at items on the menu and you say, you know what, maybe I should have bought that thing last time. And that's what we're hoping people realize. That.
To pay for it all?
Tax the ultra-rich to invest in people. That's our plan. And really, no other party is willing to say those words.
That's a commitment that Jagmeet Singh is going to push during the election because it puts both of the other parties, the Liberal and Conservative, on the defensive.
On the defensive because the alternative is cuts. The NDP is headed into the election polling in 3rd place.
The dynamics for the NDP are in trying to steal back voters who might have voted NDP in the last election, but went with the Liberals because they were trying to block the Conservatives from forming government.
The NDP could be the party to watch this election. Strategists say how well the New Democrats perform could make the difference between the Liberal government getting a majority or not. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Take a live look outside at the Ambassador Bridge. A lot calmer now than it was, well, this morning, yesterday. I don't know, pretty much all summer out here at Windsor-Essex. Colette Kennedy is going to give us a taste of the weekend forecast when she joins us next. Now, as we get prepared to take a look at the forecast, let's take another look at what hit Windsor-Essex yesterday. Damage to properties in Cottam. A camper flipped onto its top. A roof just ripped apart as well. The trees, the fences, just stuff we're sort of getting used to when these big storms come through. Colette, you showed us that line yesterday on the radar, that red zone, and it's just proof again that, you know, this part of southwestern Ontario that we live in certainly sees some action.
Yeah, and we've certainly had an active week this week, too, with what's been in place. So we looked at that line yesterday when I stood here with you, and then through the overnight hours last night, kind of mid-overnight hours, around 3 or so, had another line of some strong storms go through, and then even some more stuff coming this morning. So it's really been active, a lot of it having to do with just how buoyant the air is, and then you get a trigger mechanism, and we are seeing that kind of lift to build some of these storms. So that heat warning and this very soupy air mass, it is going to be leaving us. Tomorrow's that transition day, and then things will feel better tomorrow night and into the weekend. And by the way, Northern Tornadoes Project, we're sending a crew there, supposed to be investigating today, so hopefully we'll get an update as to the situation there and how they assess that once they get a really good look at the damage from today. So the crew from today. And just having a look at what's happening right now with those temperatures. 29 degrees, it's 28 in Chatham, Sarnia at 29. We've got 28s as you're tracking towards the northeast, but those humidex values, maybe not at 40, but boy, pretty darn close, right? And as we look through tonight, I do actually see it looking a bit better, where you might get a night where you actually sleep without hearing the rumble of thunder coming on through. But because that cold front's coming through tomorrow, and just keep in mind the cold front, it's the leading edge of a new air mass that's going to be making its way in. So we're going to exchange these two parcels of air, get rid of the sticky stuff, and get something that's more comfortable. So we'll likely see some showers developing. Now, I have been looking pretty carefully at the dynamics here, and it is seeming like once this line of storms develops, and there likely is going to be one along the cold front, it wants to pull towards the northeast of Windsor and Chatham, Kent. You're kind of on the line here, and you can see some heavier stuff pushing towards London, but we could still get tagged by that. So I would still, you know, pay attention, keep your eyes to the skies tomorrow afternoon, and just be aware of what's happening around us. A look at your overnight temperatures. This is why the heat warning is still in place, because it has to do with the overnight lows and not just criteria for daytime highs. So still low 20s tomorrow, approaching 30 degrees, humidex values at 38. So sometime during the day, I expect they'll lift that heat warning there, Environment Canada. And then look at this into the weekend. It's not just that the temperatures come down and the dew points, it's that we get into a drier stretch till about Tuesday. That'll be nice too, Chris.
Oh, it will. And that's Saturday with the sun just shining by itself. This is good to see.
Yeah, it is.
Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Now up next, an Alberta farmer is looking for a thief, and I bet they've got bad breath. We'll explain next. The Taliban say they've captured the key city of Herat in the west as they continue their rapid offensive across Afghanistan. There are reports that the southern city of Kandahar is also on the brink of falling. Earlier today, the Taliban released this video claiming to show the fall of the city of Ghazni, about 150 kilometers south of Kabul. It's raising fears that insurgents could soon take the capital. With the last of the U.S.-led international forces withdrawing by the end of this month, the Taliban now controls about 2/3 of the country. The UN says more than 4,000 people have been displaced. An Alberta garlic farmer has been left scratching her head after experiencing back-to-back bulb thefts.
We went out one morning and found that over 3 rows and almost over 30 feet in each of those rows, we had garlic missing. And so we knew that it was not animals, it was not, any act of hail or any weird weather, but the garlic plants, in fact, had been ripped out.
Between 700 and 800 of her plants in late July were taken, then again earlier this month. Altogether, the plants were worth about $3,000, could be used to start a whole new farm. Ulmer says police told her they'd never had this kind of theft before. The remaining crops have now been harvested. She says they plan to plant their crop again as normal in the fall. A leader of the NDP, Jagmeet Singh, shared some happy news on social media. Singh revealed on Twitter that he and his wife are expecting a baby, the first for the couple. He said they're very excited for this new adventure, and the news coming on the heels of an expected federal election call on Sunday. That's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. We're on social media too. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The Rick Mercer Report is up next. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.